Hello everyone, welcome back to Forged in LEGO, and today I'm going to do a build overview of my Jango Fett Slave 1. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go through each individual part and show you how to build it, and then I'm going to show you how it all fits together to form the full Slave 1. So hopefully after this video you'll be able to build it yourself, or at least understand how all these different mechanisms like the door here or the seismic charge launcher work. Alright, here we have the entirety of the seismic charge launching mechanism. Most of it is right here, and you can see there is this I guess T Technic piece right here that the spring attaches to, this arm, this piece with a pin in it, another one of those triangle pieces, and this Technic piece. I don't know what it's called, but that just snaps in right there, like that, and that attaches to this. Now this is just a couple of plates with some tiles and the Technic piece on the end with the holes in it, and that piece up there. This goes together like this, and this part, this is mostly decorative, but this right here is important, and of course the plate on the back. That's what keeps the seismic charges in a row, ready to fire. And of course the seismic charge itself is just 3 pieces. It's super easy to build. Alright, here we have the base of the Slave 1, and this is just simple slopes on top of slopes. If you want to pause the video and look at exactly which ones I used, you can do that, but it's not that important to the structure of the build. And here is the underside. Anything underneath the slopes right here and above these plates is just bricks. The important stuff is right here. So these Technic beams are what holds the Slave 1 together. We've got a pin right here, these 2 pins, this lift arm, I guess it is, and these ones right here. Those are what holds everything together, like the seismic charge launcher, which is right here. This attaches right underneath here, like this. You can see the pins right there. Those just slide together. There should be 3 studs of space, 1, 2, 3, right there. And back here, this T part, that fits in like that. And now the spring is in there, and the mechanism is mostly done. We just need the other half, but we're not able to put that on quite yet. We still have the door to put on, or the ramp, sorry. So the ramp is a fairly simple build. It's based off of this part right here, and this assembly, I guess, just goes on top of it. This is a 4x8 plate with this and that right there. That's the important part. And that just slaps on right on top of that, like that. And then you can take the rest of it that we've built and That little bar just goes right in there. Barely holds it in right now, but later on it'll be strong enough. Alright, so now we get to the other half of the base, and this is built in largely the same way. I kind of ran out of blue slopes, so I made some battle damage right here. And the only difference is this assembly instead of the two pins that hold up the T assembly for the spring. And this, make sure the ramp is up, goes on in much the same way. Make sure all the pins are lined up, especially along the ramp. There we go. It should just come together nicely. And then we can flip it over, and now that exposed pin just oh, hang on, I'm gonna have to do this. Yeah, that goes onto there and there, and then we can, there we go. So now the Seismic charge launcher is fully put together. Works like it should when the build is all complete. Alright, the next step is the bottom of the foot. Now this part is fairly simple, just bricks on top of bricks and some greebling detail on the bottom, and some slopes on the side right here. Again, pause if you need to look at this more, but let's put it on the slave one. Now this just slides in under the ramp, like so. So these slopes line up and these line up. And the gap between this and here is basically gone. Alright, next up is the top of the, I guess, base. And it's just a couple slopes on top of a plate. Fairly simple. And it just, make sure that door is out of the way. Just slides in like this, nice and easy. And then this part, I'll let you look at it from a couple angles. This part goes right up here, like that. Alright, to finish up the bottom of the base, we just have a couple detailed pieces to put on, well, the bottom. We've got this, it's just the bottom side, and it's mirrored on this side. So that shouldn't be too difficult to replicate if you pause. Again, it's just flat on the underside. And the top siding, I've got a sticker on mine, but it's facing upwards, so you won't see it on the finished model. And again, it's just flat on the underside, and it's got one of those. And here we have the engine details. This is fairly simple, not much to it. Again, the same thing. And the middle engines, again, not a whole lot. They just go together pretty simply. But in order to put these on, you just line these up like so, and it should just stud into the back like that. And the same thing for these. And these. The engines, the bottom ones, you just line up with that little piece of greebling, and they just stud in like that. Whoops. Let's fix that. There we go. And these engines, they just go in right under the wing struts, like that. And with that, the bottom of the Slave 1 should be done. Now let's move to the more interesting parts. This here is what goes behind the entrance ramp and is on the inside of the Slave 1. It's just a 4x8 plate, some 1x8 plates, and some of these parts. And that just fits in nicely on top of here, lines up with the ramp, and should be good to go. And we also have these parts which need to go up here now. These stop the rotating cockpit from rotating too far when it's in its landed mode. They're just little stops for it. Alright, well here we have the wings. Now the exact details of this aren't as important. They don't really contribute to the mechanisms, but they're nice details. Just whatever pieces you have will work fine for this, as long as it's greebling and it looks good. And unfortunately, to fit these on, we have to take off part of the engine. I should have done this in an earlier step, but we can do it now. And we put this pin onto this axle as it comes through the body. Now it's a little bit tricky to get this in here, but with enough effort, you'll get it. Now it's okay if you can only get it on part way, because the other wing, which is symmetrical to the first one, will push that pin in all the way. So you just line them up and push them together, and there we go. The wings should be done. Now in order to get them to work with gravity, you gotta spread them apart just a bit to release all the friction, and it should work. There we go. It's not working as well as I would like, but just need to loosen it a little bit more until you get what you want. Now this part is fairly important. This section right here holds most of the ship together. So if you need to pause and look at this closely, but it's just bricks on top of bricks and it's one layer, so it shouldn't be very hard to replicate. And of course that Technic pin needs to be there. And that will go right on top of here, like so. And this lift arm in here, that fits onto the pin that we put in, just like that. And we also have this detail piece that goes on the outside. It's just slopes. If you have curved slopes, they might work better. But there are 2 layers of plates in there, and it's just mostly regular slopes. And that just fits onto these 4 studs right here. And there you go. Alright, here's another fairly important piece, but again, this is just 1 layer of bricks stacked on top of each other this way. And on the other side, we have some plates to hide up all these exposed technicals, and you can see exactly what bricks were used to do that. So we could just put those back on like so, and attach this. Oh, oops, this is supposed to go one more. Like that. There we go. So this attaches to that first hole right here. This Technic pin and this hole right there. There we go. Alright, finally we get to see how the door mechanism actually works. And, well, there's just not a lot to it. It's mostly just these bricks that a couple plates attach to form the door. And we can attach that now by removing this front ramp part, so we can get the ramp to slide all the way up, and we just attach this second hole to this pin right here, like that. That should just slide on in, and then that middle hole right there goes onto this pin right here, like that. And now you can see really how the door and the ramp move together. Alright, and here we have one of the largest sections, but it's just bricks stacked on top of bricks for the most part. Important things to note are these two pins. They are lined up with the studs. This one doesn't matter, that's just filler. And these two holes have pins in them. Now that's important because that's how the side plates fit on. And underneath all of these slopes are just plates stacked up in random colors. And over here we have where the guns attach, and these are again lined up with the studs so they'll fit through the panels easier. And you can see the friction gear right there that lets it stay in position. And at the end here we just have two of these angled plates. You just cover up the end pretty nicely. And over here, let me show you this closely. This is important. This is what locks it in position, and you can see it's those headlight bricks just stacked together with a 1x1 brick in the middle. And they just slide on like that. I'll give you a better look at the whole thing. And on the other side. And over here, again, there's just a bunch of stacked up plates inside there, locking everything together. And of course these grill pieces up here. And the, I guess, detail stripe on the slave one. Alright, now those two pins that are lined up with the studs that I mentioned earlier on the top piece will line up inside these two pinholes right there, the top ones. So you can see those two pins just slip in right there. And there you go. Alright, and to put the other half of the wall on, we just have these two pieces, which are pretty much mirror images of what they were on the other side, except this one has a half pin right here instead of a full pin. Now we have to put these together before we attach them to the slave one, like so, and then we can take the slave one, and that half pin right there is going to line up with that hole. So it's important that you have a good view of what you're doing, because you've got a lot of little things to line up just right. There we go. And it looks like the pin is where it's supposed to be. And just stud that down, and we take this lift arm right here and bend it up into place, just like it is on the other side. Alright, now we just have the two side panels for the, I guess, nose of the ship. They're a fairly simple build, just plates on top of plates. And these things are gonna slide into those pins I showed you earlier, and they're what hold it to the ship. So we can bring our slave one up here, make sure these are bent at just the right angle, and line them up. You may need to adjust if necessary, and they just slide in like that. And the other side is a mirror image. So same thing, just line them up and slide them in. There you go. And to line them up properly, you just push them down. They'll stay in place. Alright, next up we have the front cannons. These are a fairly simple build. Shouldn't be very difficult to recognize how this was built. And they just slide onto those exposed Technic axles right there. And there are two of them. They're built exactly the same. Alright, here we have the cockpit. It's a fairly small part, but it's just two halves clamped together on this shell right here. I'll show you that a little bit more detail. So I take these parts off, and you can see fairly simple, fairly standard. Just a couple pieces put together. But the way to get this into the slave one, you have to take these parts off. And I'll admit, this isn't the most smooth way of doing this. I'm sure somebody else has a better way. So first you just slide in the cockpit without the two pin things attached to it. You just set it down in there, like so. And you put these in on the second hole of those lift arms. And you're going to need kind of long fingers for this, but you're going to reach in through the door and push the cockpit onto those bricks. Just like so. And you're almost done. Now this here is the last assembly that the Slave 1 needs. It's just a couple of parts, nothing huge, nothing fancy. And let me just take this apart so you can see exactly how it's built. It's just one of these with that attached to the front, and this attached like this, whoops. There we go. And like so. That tile just goes on top. And you're ready to go. It's got an extra 1x2 plate that just fits in right there. And finally, you just have the windshield. And you're done. So that's how I built the Jango Fett Slave 1 with the Seismic charge launcher and the cool ramp thing synchronized with the door. If you do end up building this, please let me know. I'd love to see how it goes, and if you have any problems, just let me know as well. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you would like to see any more videos like this in the future of any of my other custom builds. Thanks for watching.